And instantly I was like, oh man, I'm having too much fun. He gonna pull me over, right? Now, I will say you have to be careful what you think about, what you speak about, what you ask for, because it can happen, right? So lo and behold, he pulled me over. When the light turned, I turned over to a parking lot, Toys R Us parking lot at the time.
And at this point, it doesn't matter what you say because it's about to happen anyway.
Listen to me now.
Yours truly, the real Gianna Petty. Welcome. You are tapped in to another episode of Level Up Podcast. So listen, it's a lot. I have a lot. Like, I recently had a birthday, and your queen is 32. So it's huge for me because, like, I've learned so much. I've experienced a lot, and it's been pretty cool, I must say. I can't really be upset about anything. The number 19 has been coming up for me. It seems to be significant because of different experiences that I had. One of those things being that I lost my father at 19, which was really interesting for me because though he was not always around, right? He was one of those fathers that was in and out of town, wasn't in the household consistently, but I was the only girl, and that was my daddy, okay? That was my father. So it was a huge thing for me. But with that, I remember like yesterday how I handled it mentally. I was like, okay, this is sad. My daddy not here. I'm not able to have these conversations that I want to have. Like, I'm just becoming to be into this adult world thing, right? And I can't have these conversations with him that I want to ask, right? Needless to say, though, I had a conversation with some people would say with myself or with God, and I was like, you know what? Despite the fact that he's gone, he consisted of a lot of great things. He was very talented. He was very smart. He was one of the top engineers, around the US at that time. And so I just simply, like, when I tell you he was like magically in tune with music, that was another thing that I just like really loved about him. And so anyway, I had a conversation with myself or God, and I was like, you know what? Just instill those things in me. Give me all of those amazing, talented, genuine God-like abilities and things that my dad held within him. Like, if I didn't have them, give them to me. Transfer them over to me. Like, just give me the ability to understand how to move forward and, continue to grow in life. So I think that was like one cool thing that I did, I must say, that helped me handle it a lot easier. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna accept it for what it is, and focus on the good things, the positive things about who he was and what he has that I have as well. Another thing that happened to me was at the time I was riding down the street, 19, right? 19 years old, riding down the street, no tag, and I'm at the red light, and I'm like, yeah, I'm jamming, having a good time, and I look in my rearview mirror, and there's a police officer behind me, and instantly I was like, oh man, I'm having too much fun. He gonna pull me over, right? Now, I will say you have to be careful what you think about, what you speak about, what you ask for, because it can happen, right? So lo and behold, he pulled me over. When the light turned, I turned over to a parking lot, Toys R Us parking lot at the time. He did the regular routine thing, license, registration, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes to, like, basically what I would say manipulate, right? And it could be a different word for it, but ask me questions and things to get me into a position where he's like, oh, so do you know what marijuana smells like? And I want to say I said yes. Again, at 19, not really knowing that I don't need to be saying anything at all, right? So he's like, well, your car, this vehicle smells like marijuana. We have, we're going to have to pull you out and search the car, blah, blah. I'm pretty sure that's not how he said it, but that's basically what happened. And when I tell you I had to wait like an hour for a female officer to come and search me, another 20, 30 minutes, maybe another hour for a dog to come and, help them with their search on the car. They tore that truck up. When I tell you it was tore up from the floor, I was so upset. Not about the truck outside of the fact that I did have to return it and it was a mess, I was more or less upset though, because I felt so violated. I was like, this not right, you know, it was uncomfortable. I was pissed off at my best friend because she wasn't thinking on her toes to call my mom. And I'm like right down the street from my house. I'm like, why didn't you call? You know, like, but at the end of the day, she didn't know. She probably thought it was a regular traffic routine stop, right? But it was horrible. Like, I sat in the back of the officer's car with handcuffs on my hands, right? And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, what in the world? For them to only find nothing, of course. They didn't find anything. They just, I guess, had fun for 2 hours, whatever, doing what they thought was their job, right? But it was so uncomfortable. And I was like, I never, ever want to find myself in this position again, right? Like, it's not fair. And somehow, like, I was also working at a hair salon, still trying to figure things out. I want to say I had already dropped out of school. If I hadn't, I was on the verge of dropping out of college. Never really wanted to do it in the first place. And anyway, 2 weeks later, listen, 2 weeks later, an opportunity revealed itself, I'll say, because opportunities are always there, right? Everything that we want and need are there. We just have to get in alignment with it so that they can reveal themselves. And so whatever it was, somehow I attracted it and ran into a friend, went to a meeting one day. And in this meeting, it was a solution to my financial situation. The fact that I had just been, in my eyes, violated by officers, searching my car at me to find nothing. Like, y'all wasted my time is what I really felt like. Like, you can't get your time back, right? And so from that day forward, I was like, this makes complete sense. Nobody deserves to be treated how I was treated. Like, what type of world are we living in, right? We live in America, we live in America where, you know, there are rights and laws and things, and nobody like regularly just ups and goes to law school or read law books, which you can, right? But like, most people are not thinking about that. So that's why they have those lawyers and law firms put in place, right? And of course, it's all a system, and we can get deep into all that and how it works. But at the end of the day, growing up, we were taught to only use an attorney, some of us, right? More or less, I'll say the African American community, or I would say minorities, right? We're taught to only use an attorney when you're in handcuffs, right? Like, anybody want to pay for a traffic ticket with an attorney? Not back then anyway. And so that's what it was. It was an opportunity for me to always have access to an attorney and to a law firm, so that if I ever did find myself in that situation, I knew that I could be able to right then and there understand or get access and learn or know what are my rights, particularly in this situation, right? And to make sure I'm treated correctly and properly, because even how they went about it could have been totally illegal. But hey, who was I to know at 19 who never read a law book or never had an attorney or nobody to tell me what the laws were and how I could actually do things? So since that day, I was like, I'm proud of myself, I say, to look back and say, at 19, I made a decision to always utilize a law firm, no matter what's going on in my life, whether it's a good situation or a bad situation. I have modeling contracts reviewed. I've had businesses started. I've been arrested more than one time after this point. Just simply like having the advice, like, hey, is this illegal? Is this illegal? Hey, are they treating me properly? What are my rights in this situation? Again, like, just understanding what your rights are in the situation can make a huge difference. And so I just I get excited every time I think about it, because it's like, man, like, my younger self was smart enough to say, this is what you always need. Don't ever not have this, because we live in a country that is based off of laws, right? It's based off of whatever this contracts and things are, you know, that they've put together to make the United States of America. But it's helpful. Like, it's definitely better to have something like that and not need it than to need it and not have it. Like, it's just, to me, it made sense, right? On top of that, me deciding to I always make sure I had access to it. First of all, let's be clear. At 19, the average way you approach an attorney, you can't afford it. Like, no, I didn't have 10 grand to put an attorney on retainer, right, for the next 20, 30 years or whatever, every month. That's not reality. But there was an app that I was able to utilize, and it sounds too good to be true, but it gave me access to entire full law firms nationwide, not just here locally, but nationwide, with attorneys who actually knew what they were doing, who actually call you back, right? So it was pretty cool. So with that being said, okay, because I'm getting excited and I'm like going on. With that being said, there was something attached to it where they were like, okay, listen, you see value in it, you love the service, you can utilize it, you see how it can help other people, right? If something makes money, if something makes sense, it can make dollars. So they turn around and say, hey, listen, you can help other people learn about the services. If they like what they see, they get enrolled. We'll make you a partner with us and you'll get a piece of the pie, right? Just brief description of how it works. It's kind of like an affiliate program in a sense. And there's a lot of other aspects to it that are really exciting. But that was also another thing to me at 19, I made a decision to get into, because it was like, well, because college is not, I don't really feel like and see college being for me. I didn't want to be into any more additional debt than I already was. Never really wanted to go into it in the first place. Because I was like, I don't see like any of that, any of the things that college can give you when it comes to that degree. I'm like, I don't know. Like, I got plenty of family members with multiple degrees that's like, working a regular job. They could have just not got the degree, right? It wasn't adding up to me. And so I'm like, all right, I don't really know. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing, what's my purpose per se, right? So I was like, I'm going to do this. And after getting involved, utilizing my services, very good, like, okay, shoot, life is good. Like, I always got an attorney no matter what. Life is good. And so with that, I became passionate about it. Like, it went from my head to my heart, where I'm like, all right, I gotta tell, I'm kind of feeling obligated to tell people that this is out here. Like, everybody ain't got the opportunity to just like, hey, Uncle Joe, I know you're an attorney. Even if they are, Uncle Joe typically is only an attorney in one area or two maybe. But like, what if you run into something else crazy and Uncle Joe can't represent you? Who do you call and how do you save money in the process, right? So I got passionate about telling people about the service and the app. And, the journey has been so beautiful. And I say that because I got so many experiences. Now, at the moment of those experiences, they weren't necessarily all enjoyable. Like, I had some crazy experiences, but the journey overall, it has been beautiful. Like, I've had some experiences, I'll just say. And I'll get into like some details of those experiences. But I will say, after that point and after me getting into taking it more serious, I started saying, man, like, I don't have a reason to use my app. Like, why would I need to call into a law firm? I don't get in trouble. I didn't purposely get stopped and pulled over. But like, okay, how can I use an attorney now to like get benefits out of my service and be able to tell people like, hey, this actually works, right? So again, be careful what you ask for, because like, yeah, you just might get it, especially if you're not intentional or specific about what you're asking for. So I was like, I want to use my membership. And I ended up being in a situation where still another interaction with an officer, right? But outside of that, like, fast forward, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be smarter about it and look at and observe the things that I am doing and see how I can use my attorney in those situations. So that brings like, again, the modeling contracts and the starting of the businesses, or hey, if you sign a lease for an apartment, like making sure the attorney reviews it so that you're not being, so they're not getting over you when it comes to that paperwork and that the paperwork, the wording, the diction, right, that you didn't go to school for. And so for me, like, kind of just going back over everything, highlighting the fact that like 19 is a significant number, but for me, because at the age of 19 I got those experiences, I made decisions that have really blessed me 12 years later. Looking back, like, man, where would I be if I didn't take the opportunity? I wouldn't have the friends that I have, I wouldn't have had the experiences that I have, I wouldn't have had much of any, like, the training and the experiences and the skills that I have. Me coming out of being like a super shy person into like this person who's still an introvert, but now I know how to interact with people now, you know, versus like not saying anything at all. And like connecting with people, networking, right? Just all these things that came about from me just making that decision. Going to school for free, like, but in an area where I was interested, I was hands-on, like seeing the world. Like, I could go on and on about these things that followed my decision that I made when I was 19. So I get excited. I just wanted to highlight and think, and, you know, kind of put that out there. It was a beautiful thing. 19, all right. Okay, I feel like I kind of got a connection now with 19 keys. Like, I never thought about that, and I actually really should do some more studying on the number 19. But yeah, now I don't know what life is like the last 12 or 13 years without understanding, hey, you have a right to know your rights. And you don't have to do it with, you know, millions of dollars. You could do it with literally pennies on a dollar a day. And having access to law firms can be good because you use them in good scenarios, as well as if you just happen to run into situations where it's not so good, you still got them to understand, hey, what is my right? So anyways, thanks for allowing me to share my story. Okay, so you tapped into another episode of Level Up Podcast with the real Jeanna Petty here. Listen, so excited as always. And you know, if you don't know, we always end it off with the famous J-Bo quote. And it simply goes like this: life is good, people are kind. Love with your heart, think with your mind. Live your dreams, write it down, have faith, and believe it's true. All right, yours truly, the real Jeanna Petty, and we will see you on the next episode.